All right, so my name is Brantley Milligan. I work for an organization called True Names Limited, which is a non-profit based out of Singapore. And we are just the de facto managers of the open source project at the Ethereum name service. That's our website. Our lead developer is Nick Johnson. He's based out of New Zealand, great guy. And our initial patron has been the Ethereum Foundation. So there's a problem in the blockchain world. And the problem is that this is what an Ethereum hex address looks like. If you want to send somebody some Ether or some Ethereum-based tokens, this is what you have to give them. And just to show it's not just a blockchain problem, actually. This is what an IPFS hash looks like. IPFS is interplanetary file system. It's a peer-to-peer file system that jives well with what the blockchain world is trying to accomplish. And the problem is that these things are not user-friendly. So let's talk about Ethereum hex addresses. You can't remember it. You can't type it. You can't say it. It looks intimidating. You have to copy and paste it, or maybe scan a QR code, but that only works on your phone. So this is kind of a major UX problem. So will Ethereum and other cryptocurrencies really gain mass adoption with this kind of UI and UX problem? So if this is what we have, the question is, can we take those things which work great for computers but not for humans and maybe cover them with something that does look great for humans, and that is exactly what ENS does. So all computers have an address. We call an IP address. It's just a string of numbers, looks like this. And this stays hidden in the background, though, because we have the domain name system of the internet. ENS does exactly the same thing. So how ENS works. So ENS is very simple. The first thing to know is that ENS is only smart contracts on the Ethereum blockchain. There are no ENS servers. If you want to use ENS, if you want to offer ENS names, let's say to customers, you don't need our permission. There's no credentials that we need to give you. You can just start using it. It's just a set of smart contracts. And it's very simple. It's just a lookup system. So let's say you have foo.eth and you want to resolve this. So somebody gives this to you. You first go to the ENS registry and you get back the address of its ENS record. You get that address back and then you look up, we call it the resolver. You go look that up and you get back the ENS records. We added this extra step. So you could say, well, you have the ENS name and you look up the record. We added that extra step so that anybody can build their own record. The nature of the records is not hard-coded into ENS. So anybody can make their own type of record. Although we do have kind of a standard record type that we've created that most people use, although you don't have to use it. We call it the public record. And it just has 3 record types. So it has an address record type for an Ethereum address, a content record type for an IPFS or swarm hash. We're also going to be adding the ability for this to have .onion addresses in the content. So you can go to Tor websites. We can provide naming service for that. Very excited about that. And then we have text records, which we're not really using, but we plan using this for a future optional whois in our manager. But you can also make your own custom resolver. So you could take this, copy it, and maybe add some fields if you have unique needs. We just had some upgrades last month that we're really excited about. I just want to talk about those real quick. So in the old system, to get a .eth name, there was a 5-day auction. And now we have instant registrations. Just takes about 2 minutes. It's really fast. In the old system, when you got a name, you had to deposit a certain amount of Ether based on the auction. And if you ever released your name, you got that Ether back. So it was a recoverable deposit. Now you have to pay a yearly fee of about $5 a year. That comes to about 34 Chinese yuan. I'm probably saying it wrong, sorry. The reason that ENS costs anything at all is to prevent mass name squatting. This is when people who don't plan on using the names maybe take up thousands of names that they hold on to, and they just either choke the system so that nobody can use it, or they're trying to sell it for a high markup. And really, we want the people who are actually using a name to own it themselves directly. So in the old system, ENS names were not NFT compliant. They were, of course, non-fungible because each name is unique. But when I say NFT, I'm talking about the NFT standards that have been developed in the last year or so. And now, all ENS names are NFT compliant. So names just plug right into NFT marketplaces like OpenSea and eMoon. And in fact, these already have ENS names. And in the old system, we didn't have reverse resolution. So normal resolution is when you have a ENS name and you get information from its record. Well, reverse resolution is where you have, let's say, an Ethereum address, and you want to look up to see if it has a corresponding ENS name. This is really useful in dApps. I'll talk about it in a second. So we're really excited about this. Important note, if you owned a .eth name prior to the upgrade, which happened on May 4th, 2019, you have 1 year to migrate to the new system. And if you don't, you will lose your name, or at least it'll be released back into the system. So you can do that at our manager, this is the website for it. It's very easy. You just click one button, and it migrates over to the new system. Some other upcoming upgrades. So in the current ENS system, we only allow .eth names that are 7 characters or greater. The reason for this was set this way about 2 years ago when we first launched. The reason for this is when ENS first launched, it was sort of an experiment. And shorter names are more valuable because they're more rare. So we wanted to limit the damage if there was a catastrophe. Thankfully, there hasn't been a catastrophe. ENS is working great. So we're actually going to be opening up 3 to 6 character names soon in a 3-step process this summer. You can read our Medium blog to get more specifics about that. But this is exciting. Something I'm personally very excited about is that hopefully this year we will be rolling out DNS domain integration to ENS. Now, what does this mean? It means that you will be able to make an ENS record for a DNS domain. This already works with .xyz names. If you get example.xyz, you can claim that second-level domain on ENS, have an ENS record for it, and it just works like a .eth address. There are some projects doing this. We plan on rolling this out to more than 1,200 DNS TLDs later this year. There's about 1,500 TLDs in DNS, but they have to have what's called DNSSEC. It's a security protocol, because that's what we use to verify ownership. And not all of them have that yet, but most do, like .com does. I mean, all the ones you'd heard of. Only there's a couple hundred country codes that don't, but. So in the current system, we just have .eth and then .xyz an experiment. We also have an experiment with .lux. I won't go into now, but it's very similar to .xyz. But in the new system, all your DNS names, most of them should work. So very clear. What this means is that Ethereum let's say the Ethereum Foundation owns Ethereum.org. They could set an ENS record for Ethereum.org, not Ethereum.eth. So like if you're in your wallet and you want to send some Ether to the Ethereum Foundation, you would type in Ethereum.org. And more information will be coming soon on this. Our current system in our standard public resolver only supports Ethereum addresses, but we're actually thinking about and doing research into how we could support other cryptocurrencies, naming systems for that. So you'd have one name, and whether somebody wants to send you Bitcoin or Litecoin or Ether or anything, the one name would work. This could be very valuable, especially for multi-coin wallets. But we're still working on this. All right, just a few words about how to integrate ENS into your DApp. So the goal of ENS is this, that every time a user might otherwise see an Ethereum hex address or a content hash or any kind of scary machine-readable name, they should instead see an ENS name. So our goal is just like how your phone has an IP address, but nobody, most people don't even know they have an IP address because it's hidden in the background. That's what we want for, cryptocurrency addresses. So I'm going to go through different levels of ENS support that your DApp could have. The first level I call integration level -10. It's very bad. It's a DApp that has no ENS support whatsoever. You're scaring away your users with 40-character Ethereum hex addresses. This is danger zone. This is really bad, okay? Bad UI, bad user interface. Doesn't have ENS. Then there's integration level 1. Very, very simple. You just simply allow a user in any place that has a send field, like a send to field, where they could put an Ethereum hex address. They make it so they could also put an ENS name, and then you just automatically resolve that for them. And this is super easy. It's a huge user experience increase. Every DApp that has a send field should have this. And this is what it could look like. The recipient, you say Ethereum name or hex address. They put in any ENS name. And then you could, if you wanted to, maybe show what it's resolving to underneath. And so they can kind of verify it if they want. Integration level 2 is using reverse resolution. So anywhere you display a hex address, look it up to see if it has a reverse resolution record. If it does, display the ENS name instead. So again, you're really smart if you're doing this. This is slightly more complicated, but not too much. Here's an example of what it could look like. Let's say in your DApp, you have like a user profile. Now, some DApps today, they have as the username the user's Ethereum hex address, and they'll kind of show it like this. This is not user-friendly. So, right, you can see this. This is bad. What you could do instead is look up to see if it has a reverse resolution record, and if it does, display the .eth name instead. This is much better, much more user-friendly. You could still kind of, put the hex address underneath it if you want to let them verify it if they want. Eventually, though, hopefully these will all be in the background. So integration level 3 is you can actually give your users names. So if people are sending to ENS names and they're doing reverse resolution, well, people need to get names in the first place. So in the onboarding process, you can give all your users an ENS name that can kind of function as their username. This would be really, really smart if you're doing this. So you can give them subdomains is what you can do. So you can get yourdapp.eth. They can choose a username, and then they can name their wallet. Integration level 4 is you can host your DApp rather than as a normal website that has a centralized server. Host it on IPFS. Make it available via ENS in a supported browser. And this is like a little bit more complicated, but really decentralizes your app entirely. So we are actually in the Opera beta mobile app right now. We have native integration. So if you opened up Opera, type in a .eth domain, and it will show your DApp. It's pretty amazing. We're in a bunch of libraries here. You can go to our documentation. And so your DApp isn't finished without ENS because your DApp isn't user-friendly without ENS, and we need to make our things user-friendly. These are just some useful links, and that's all. Thank you very much.